Have you ever held on to a grudge so tightly that it began to shape how you see the world? Have you noticed how anger, resentment, and old wounds can silently drain your energy, distort your perceptions, and even harm your health? The truth is, forgiveness is not just a moral ideal whispered by saints and philosophers. It is a psychological process that can liberate your mind and restore your emotional balance. In this video, we're diving into the hidden science behind forgiveness, revealing why it transforms the brain, how it reshapes your identity, and why it may be the key to a happier and healthier life. Forgiveness often seems like a lofty virtue reserved for those who are spiritually enlightened, yet every human brain is wired to struggle with letting go. When someone hurts you, your nervous system interprets it as a threat. Stress hormones surge, fight or flight responses ignite, and your memory tags the event with emotional pain. That's why betrayal, rejection, and humiliation can linger for years. Your mind treats the offense like an open wound, returning to it again and again, rehearsing the pain in an attempt to gain control. Psychologists call this rumination, and it is one of the major obstacles to peace. But here's the paradox. The more you ruminate, the deeper the wound becomes. Research in clinical psychology shows that forgiveness is not the same as condoning harmful behavior. It is not forgetting, excusing, or pretending the hurt didn't happen. Instead, it's a deliberate decision to release the hold that resentment has over you. In the brain, this decision can deactivate the amygdala, the alarm center, while activating regions linked to empathy and self-regulation. Over time, these changes reduce blood pressure, ease symptoms of depression and anxiety, and improve sleep. Forgiveness, then, is a neurobiological shift as much as it is a moral act. Consider the story of a woman who was betrayed by her closest friend. At first, she could not stop replaying the moment of betrayal. It consumed her thoughts at work, kept her awake at night, and made her suspicious of others. But through therapy and guided forgiveness exercises, she learned to process her anger without letting it define her. She wrote a letter she never sent, expressing everything she felt. She visualized releasing the resentment like dropping a heavy stone. Eventually, she reached a state where thinking of her friend no longer triggered a surge of bitterness. This did not mean she allowed that friend back into her life or forgot what happened. It meant she reclaimed her peace. Her story reflects what countless studies have found. Forgiveness is self-liberation. Why is this so hard? Part of the answer lies in identity. When someone hurts you deeply, your brain may fuse the event with your sense of self. I was betrayed becomes, I am a betrayed person. The pain turns into a narrative, and the narrative can become a prison. Forgiveness disrupts this story. It says, I will not let my identity be written by someone else's actions. This is why forgiveness can feel like death to the ego, but life to the soul. It dissolves the me versus them dynamic and restores agency to your own mind. Psychologists also point out the role of empathy in forgiveness. Empathy does not mean excusing or approving harmful behavior. It means understanding that people act from their own wounds, fears, and limitations. When you glimpse the humanity of the one who hurt you, the emotional charge softens. This doesn't justify the harm. It simply frees you from the poison of hatred. Even small shifts in perspective, imagining the offender as a frightened child, or recognizing the pressures that led to their action, can ease the grip of resentment. This is why forgiveness practices are often paired with compassion meditation in clinical and spiritual settings alike. Another key insight from the psychology of forgiveness is that it unfolds in stages. The first stage is acknowledging the pain fully. Skipping this step creates false forgiveness, a mask over unresolved anger. The second stage is deciding to forgive, even if your emotions have not yet caught up. The third stage is reframing the event, seeing what you learned, how you grew, or how you can protect yourself differently in the future. The final stage is emotional release, when the memory no longer provokes the same surge of negativity. Each stage engages different cognitive and emotional processes, and moving through them requires patience. There is also a social dimension. Unforgiveness isolates you. It builds invisible walls that keep others at a distance, even those who never hurt you. Forgiveness, on the other hand, opens the door to connection. It allows relationships to heal, trust to be rebuilt, or, at the very least, your own heart to be free while maintaining healthy boundaries. This is why some therapists describe forgiveness as emotional decluttering. It removes the debris that blocks authentic living. It's important to emphasize that forgiveness is not always immediate, and it may not be safe or appropriate to reconcile with someone who continues to harm you. Forgiveness is an internal act, a shift in your own consciousness. You can forgive without inviting the person back into your life. In fact, forgiveness can be the boundary itself, the point at which you say, I release the emotional debt, but I also protect my well-being. This is where the psychology of forgiveness intersects with self-respect. Self-respect does not mean holding grudges. It means knowing your worth. When you forgive, you're not diminishing yourself. You're affirming that your inner peace is too valuable to be held hostage. You're choosing to own your story rather than letting pain own you. This mental shift is not easy, but once it begins, it sets off a cascade of positive changes. Brain imaging studies show increased activity in the prefrontal cortex, the region associated with decision-making and emotional regulation, in people who practice forgiveness. This neurological signature correlates with greater resilience and lower stress. Forgiveness also has a ripple effect. When one person lets go of resentment, it can influence family dynamics, friendships, and even workplaces. Just as anger spreads, so does compassion. Think of communities torn by conflict where acts of forgiveness have sparked reconciliation movements. On a smaller scale, think of how forgiving a colleague can shift the mood of an entire team. The psychology of forgiveness is not just personal, it's collective. Forgiveness does not erase the past, but it transforms the meaning of the past. Instead of a wound that defines you, the memory becomes a lesson that refines you. This is why so many people describe a sense of lightness or freedom after truly forgiving. They are no longer tethered to the story of being wronged. The emotional energy that was trapped in resentment becomes available for creativity, growth, and authentic connection. You can see this in people who have endured extraordinary pain yet radiate peace. Their faces tell a story not of denial but of transcendence. One of the most striking findings in research on forgiveness is how it improves physical health. Chronic anger and grudges elevate stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, which in turn weaken immunity, damage blood vessels, and accelerate aging. People who cultivate forgiveness show lower blood pressure, stronger immune responses, and fewer symptoms of chronic illness. In other words, holding a grudge literally weighs on your body. Letting go is not just a spiritual act, it's a biological relief. Yet forgiveness does not happen by accident. It can be learned and practiced. Psychologists and spiritual teachers alike offer exercises to help people move through the stages. Writing an unsent letter, practicing mindfulness of your emotions, visualizing the release of resentment, or even simple breathing exercises can begin to rewire the brain. Repeating compassionate self-talk, I choose to release this pain, may feel artificial at first, but repetition builds new neural pathways. Over time, your nervous system begins to believe it is safe to let go. A powerful tool is self-forgiveness. Many people can extend grace to others, but remain merciless toward themselves. They replay their own mistakes, drown in guilt, and sabotage their growth. The psychology of forgiveness teaches that self-forgiveness follows the same process. Acknowledge the harm you've caused, take responsibility, make amends where possible, and release the self-condemnation. This is not indulgence. It's a commitment to become better without living in perpetual shame. Just as you cannot heal by wounding yourself again, you cannot become whole by clinging to self-hatred. Another dimension is time. Forgiveness is not a single moment, but a process that unfolds differently for everyone. Some find relief quickly. Others revisit the decision repeatedly before the emotions catch up. This is normal. In fact, Expecting instant forgiveness can create pressure and deepen pain. A more compassionate approach is to see forgiveness as a practice rather than a finish line. Each day you choose a little more freedom, a little less bitterness. This steady shift creates lasting change. The psychology of forgiveness also illuminates its limits. Forgiveness does not obligate reconciliation. It does not require you to trust someone untrustworthy or return to a harmful environment. It simply frees you from the corrosive effects of hatred. Healthy boundaries and forgiveness can coexist. You can release anger and still say no to abuse. You can wish someone well from a distance while protecting your peace. Understanding this distinction allows forgiveness to empower rather than endanger you. On a deeper level, forgiveness reshapes your worldview. Resentment creates a mental universe of villains and victims. Forgiveness dissolves that universe and replaces it with complexity. People are not purely heroes or villains. They are human beings shaped by their own pain, ignorance, and fears. Seeing this does not excuse harm, but enlarges your perspective. It moves you from a reactive stance to a creative one. Instead of being defined by what was done to you, you define yourself by how you respond. Cultivating forgiveness also transforms relationships. Couples who practice forgiveness recover from conflicts more quickly and report higher satisfaction. Parents who model forgiveness raise children with greater empathy and emotional intelligence. Leaders who embody forgiveness foster trust and cooperation in teams. In every case, forgiveness acts as a catalyst for emotional safety, and emotional safety is the soil in which growth occurs. There is a surprising psychological payoff as well: increased self-efficacy. When you forgive, you learn that you are not helpless in the face of emotional injury. You discover that your inner state is not determined by external events. This realization builds resilience. Future setbacks do not feel as devastating because you know you have the tools to release the pain. Forgiveness, then, is not weakness but power, the power to direct your own inner weather. At its core, forgiveness is a choice about where to place your attention. You can focus on the wound, keeping it raw, or you can focus on your capacity to heal. You cannot change the past, but you can change the meaning you assign to it. This shift in meaning is the essence of psychological freedom. It transforms bitterness into wisdom and suffering into compassion. Many spiritual traditions echo this insight, but modern neuroscience confirms it. Neurons that fire together wire together. Each time you choose release over resentment, you strengthen the circuits of peace. The journey of forgiveness is deeply personal, yet its effects ripple outward. A single act of letting go can soften a family feud, mend a friendship, or inspire someone else to release their own bitterness. In this sense, forgiveness is contagious. It spreads not through preaching but through presence, the calm, grounded energy of someone who has made peace with their past. As you reflect on your own life, consider the burdens you might be carrying. Whose actions still echo in your mind? What mistakes of your own still haunt you? Imagine, even for a moment, what it would feel like to set them down. Not because they didn't matter, but because you matter more than your pain. This is the heart of the psychology of forgiveness, reclaiming your freedom from the past. What do you think? Have you experienced the transformative power of forgiveness in your own life? Or are you still searching for a way to let go? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. Forgiveness is not a gift to the person who hurt you. It is a gift to yourself. It is an act of radical self-care and a declaration of freedom. When you forgive, you are not saying what happened is okay. You are saying, I choose to be okay despite what happened. This is one of the most courageous decisions a person can make. If this message resonated with you, if it helped you glimpse a way forward, then take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring more content like this to those who need it most.